Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking yet another video and welcome if you're new. My name is Tadia G and on this channel I like to share tips, tricks, gems and all of that good stuff when it comes to running and building a clothing brand. Now in this video we are jumping into part 2 of writing a business plan for your business. If you haven't watched part 1, I urge you guys to go and watch it so that you have all of the chapters covered before we jump into chapter 6 of writing a business plan. So I'm gonna have it linked up here and definitely linked in the description. So in the previous part we covered your executive summary, owner background, products and services, the market and market research. And in this section we are going to cover some more like chunkier important chapters. Not saying that the chapters we covered in part 1 are not important, they're just as important, but we are going to be covering some chunkier, meatier chapters. So we're gonna cover your marketing strategy, competitor analysis, operations and logistics, cost and pricing, and then lastly your financial forecast. So let's dive straight in. Marketing strategy. This is arguably one of the most important sections in your business plan. This is a section that's probably gonna always like change and adjust over time because as we move through the world, things in the world are always changing. When I first started my business, there was no such thing as like Instagram Reels, there was no TikTok. So if I was to go back to my business plan that I first wrote, it's not gonna have any marketing strategies that pertain to TikTok. So that's what I mean by this section is always going to be changing and evolving. Your marketing strategy section is basically all about how you are going to promote your business and get the sales for your business. And a good marketing strategy always references your target customer. Now we spoke about target customers in part 1 of this business plan mini series, and it also refers to some of the findings from the research that you carried out when writing the market section of your business plan. So the way I like to think of this marketing section and the way I feel like it's easy-ish to write it is by splitting it into the following headings. So you can almost write it as a sort of table, or you can write it as a paragraph, but in the paragraph there's going to be these sections, if that makes sense. So you're going to want to have your method. So when I speak method is what method are you going to use to market your brand to your customers, and how are you going to maximize the effectiveness of that method. So that would be your first section. Next you're going to want to talk about why you have chosen this method, and then next you're going to talk about how much this method is expected to cost you. So in terms of why you've chosen this method, so say your method of marketing is TikTok for example. Some of the reasons why I would choose TikTok as a marketing strategy of choice would be it has X amount of users every day. This percentage of people make purchasing decisions after they've watched a TikTok video, or TikTok now has TikTok Shop where you can actually sell directly to your customers via TikTok using a video that you have promoted for your business on TikTok. Or say your marketing strategy is a pop-up. You can write things like a pop-up is a great way for customers to actually have a good physical look at some of the products that I'm selling. So say you're selling candles, it's going to be really difficult for a person to purchase a candle online without knowing what it smells like. So a pop-up is probably a good way for your customers to, you know, look, touch, feel, smell your candles, and that could be a reason why you chose a pop-up as your marketing method of choice. Now when we're talking about cost, relating that back to a pop-up, how much is the fee for that pop-up going to be? So for example, when I hosted the Hang Your Pop-up, I think I was charging $250 for people to have a pitch, which isn't that much, because trust me guys, it can get really spenny. So for a pop-up you're gonna want to write down what's the expected cost, or how many pop-ups are you going to do, and how much of your marketing budget are you going to allocate to those pop-ups. So that's pretty much the things that you need to think about when writing about your marketing strategy. So what methods you're going to use, why you've chosen those methods, and how much it's going to cost you. The next chapter is your competitor analysis. Now I really enjoy this chapter because I think it's really interesting, and it definitely expands your mind because you sit there there and you research brands that you think are your competitors. And in this section, I'm gonna want you to take a really good in-depth look at some of these competitors. You're gonna wanna look at the size of the brand, the products that they sell, their strengths and their weaknesses. Carrying out this section in a lot of detail will give you the opportunity to look at what sorts of things you want to implement for your brand and also what things you shouldn't do in your brand. And it will give you the opportunity to position yourself in the market against some of those competitors. This will actually help you with the next section, which is your SWOT analysis. So make sure you're looking at brands, small and big, established and not so much established, Instagram brands, high street brands. Definitely cast your net. And with this section, you can create a table, and your table should have the following headings. So the name of the brand, the location, so what country it's from or where it's in, the size of the brand. These are sorts of things that you can research on the internet, the products that they sell or the services that they provide, their strengths and their weaknesses. Now, with all of that in mind, it's time to take a good detailed look at your own brand and carry out your own SWOT analysis on your brand. It's really important for you to be really honest with yourself when it comes to carrying out this SWOT analysis. So you're going to look at the strength of your business, so what your business does well, what makes your business different to its competitors, some of the resources that you already have. Those are the sorts of things that are going to come under strengths. You're then going to want to assess your weaknesses, and this is when you really have to be honest with yourself. So what does your brand not do so well, and what do your competitors do better than you do? What resources are you lacking in? What skills are you lacking in? Those are the sorts of things that you want to dive into when it comes to writing about the weakness of your business, of your brand. Next, you want to write about opportunities. What opportunities will make your brand excel? Perhaps there is a demand for your product and there's not so much supply. So when I created my starter kit, the opportunity with that was demand. A lot of people were asking me, how do I start a clothing brand? So I was meeting a demand. So that was the opportunity that I saw. And then lastly, you're going to look at your threats. What threats are going to stop your brand from excelling? So again, if I relate that back to my starter kit, one of the threats that I could have is people not actually trusting that I'm going to deliver on my promise, especially at the moment, considering that I'm not offering a return, because it's really tricky when people have access to something already and then they ask for a return. So it's a bit tricky. So that could be a threat for my starter kit. Apologies for those of you that don't know what my starter kit is. It's basically an online course that helps you start your clothing brand. I just realized that not everybody here is probably going to know what I'm talking about. Now, next, you're going to want to write your USP. So what makes your business unique? Now, I know writing a USP for your brand can be quite difficult. In all honesty, I know when it came to my clothing brand, writing a USP was quite difficult, but I would say probably my USP is having such a small brand with premium prices being made in Italy. That is one of my USPs for my business. My USP for my starter kit would be being able to provide a step-by-step guide of how to start, as opposed to what you typically find, which is how to market. I am stripping it all the way back to the basics of how to start a clothing brand. So the next chapter in our business plan is going to be operations and logistics, and I feel like this is a chapter that is often neglected, but it's very, very important to have the operations and the logistics of your business absolutely down. This section covers how exactly you are going to run your business, the different things you're going to put in place, where you're going to operate it from, all those sorts of things. Now, to explain this section in a bit more detail, I am going to relate it to a clothing brand, but definitely some of the points that I'm going to address are going to be transferable for other types of product-based businesses. So production, who's going to make your product? What's their communication like? What's their lead time like? So when I'm talking lead time, I'm talking how long does it take for your product to get to you once you've approved this particular product? What are the payment terms of your production company or of your manufacturing company? How do they want to be paid? Do they want full payment upfront, or do they want 50% upfront, or is it payment on delivery? It's all of these sorts of things that you need to think about. Delivery to your customer. How are you going to deliver this product? How are you going to deliver your clothing to your customer? How long does it take for your product to get to your customer? What delivery service are you going to use? Here in the UK, we have plenty, Are you going to use Royal Mail? Are you going to use Every, DPD, UPS? What delivery service are you going to use? Or is your clothing brand a shop? Do customers need to actually come in store to shop your product? How is your product going to get to your customer? Next, we're going to look at payment terms. How is your customer going to pay for their products? Are you using a platform such as Shopify? Do you have PayPal available on your Shopify store? Do you have Klarna available so people can split their payments or pay later? What are the payment terms for purchasing your product? You also need to think about your returns and exchange policy. I've actually got a returns video that's either gonna be before this video or after this video, but I will definitely have it linked somewhere. Next, you're gonna want to look at your suppliers. Who are your suppliers? Obviously, we've looked at production, but when I talk suppliers, I'm talking about all the other things that you're going to need in order to get your product to its customers. So I'm talking packaging, I'm talking how much that's going to cost, how long it takes for your packaging to get to you, the other things that might go into your packaging, so like tissue paper or clear garment bag, all those sorts of things. Maybe you print invoices, where are you going to get that invoice paper from, where are you going to get the ink for your printer from? Like, all of these things come under suppliers. That little section can be quite extensive. Premises, where are you going to be operating from? Are you going to have an office space? Are you going to be operating out of your bedroom, out of the loft in your house, out of a storage unit? Where are you going to be processing your orders? And what sorts of insurances do you need to have in place in order to proceed from those premises? Do you need to have public liability insurance? You need to start thinking about those sorts of things. If you're renting an accommodation, does your landlord require you to let them know that you're now going to be operating a business from those premises? Does your mortgage lender need to know that you're going to be operating a business from those premises? Does your home contents insurance cover your business? It's all of those sorts of things that you need to start thinking about when it comes to premises. And I've also touched on insurance a little bit as well. Lastly, management and staff. Who is in this business with you and what are their responsibilities? If you're a one-man ship, obviously you know that you're the only one in this business. You're the only one that's going to be responsible for different things. But if you have multiple people, or if it's a family-based business, what's your mother in charge of? What's your dad in charge of? What's your siblings in charge of? Those are the sorts of things that you need to start writing about in management and staff. So the next chapter is cost and pricing. Fundamentally, we are here to make money. So you need to make sure that you are pricing your products in a way that's going to give you a profit in the long run. You're going to be making some sort of money. So in order to ensure this, you're going to want to make sure you're covering your costs, as well as considering where it is exactly you want to be in the market. So in terms of cost, you need to factor in your production costs, your cost of labor, your raw material cost, as well as shipping costs, packaging costs, all those sorts of things. But other things that you need to also consider is your rent costs. So for me, it's like, how much does this office cost? Subscription costs. So say you're running your business online, Shopify costs £25 a month if you're on the basic plan. Those are the sorts of costs that you need to consider, and you need to make sure you're covering all of those costs. However, when it comes to actually pricing your products, there are three main ways that you can price them. So you can have your cost-based pricing strategy, your competitive costing strategy, so that's when you're looking at your competitors and pricing accordingly, and then your value-based strategy. I actually have a full-on YouTube video that covers your cost and pricing strategy in a lot more detail, so I'll definitely have that linked in the description and hopefully linked up there if I remember. So definitely watch that video if you want to dive in fully into your cost and pricing strategy, which is definitely an incredibly important section of your business plan. Now finally is your financial forecast. Now a sales forecast or financial forecast is to show how many sales or how many services you're going to provide, and typically it's done like over a year. So you have your sales forecast for a year, so you have like your months, so January through to December, or say if you're somebody that's working April to April, you're gonna have like those months, and under that you're going to have how many sales you're gonna make. So relating this to a clothing brand, I would have like my products listed out, and then I would say, okay, in January I'm gonna sell 2 tracksuits and 1 hoodie because it's January, it's cold. Your sales are affected by factors like that, like the weather, the season. So you can say to yourself, okay, in November, because it's Black Friday, I am going to probably sell a lot more products. Or it's coming up to April, May, I'm probably gonna sell a lot more of my dresses because that's the season for like summery type outfits. Or say you sell jackets, you're gonna know that, you know, September, October, you're probably gonna sell more jackets as people prepare for the winter season. And I'm speaking for those that are based in the UK. Obviously, it is hard to predict how many sales you are gonna make for your business. So the way I would say to do it is to plan for the worst case scenario, and the total amount that you make from your sales is what they call your turnover. Then obviously, once you incorporate your costs and cover all your costs, the money that you have left over would be your profit. Now, this is a big and chunky chapter, so if you guys want me to go into a lot more detail when it comes to your financial forecast, maybe like go through like a table and show you how you would set this up, then definitely let me know, comment down below. So that is it. That is how to write a business plan for your business in 10 easy-ish steps. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this video and you've learned a thing or two. Definitely comment down below if you have any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Please do share this video, especially on LinkedIn, because I'm sure you have somebody on LinkedIn that would benefit from this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in my very next video.